President Trump suffered a significant blow on Thursday when his nuclear summit with North Korean leader Kim Jong-un unexpectedly collapsed. Trump traveled halfway around the world to Vietnam on a mission to broker a historic nuclear accord with Kim, with whom he has spent more than a year building a personal relationship in order to deliver on his number one foreign policy goal of ridding North Korea of nuclear weapons. Instead, the self-styled negotiator-in-chief left the two-day summit with no deal after failing to persuade the North Korean strongman to commit on surrendering his arsenal. It all happened in the middle of the night for most Americans who awoke in the morning after a day of riveting testimony on Capitol Hill by Trump's former personal attorney, Michael Cohen. I saw some of that hearing. I was not impressed. It was just, oh, this person is now anti-Trump. We must love him because we have Trump hate boner. So that I would not, agree with that description there, but whatever. Also, I apologize for the lighting. It's kind of janky. I'm trying to fix it a little bit. Who awoke after a day of riveting testimony. A success with Kim would have allowed Trump to change the narrative after a difficult day. Instead, he had to deal with Cohen fallout that has now coupled with disappointment in Vietnam. A visibly subdued Trump sought to explain the result during a press conference in Hanoi, which was moved 2 hours after a pre-scheduled working luncheon and joint signing ceremony were suddenly canceled. Sometimes you have to walk, and this was just one of those times, Trump told reporters after boarding Air Force One en route back to Washington. Trump did earn a modicum of praise from regional experts who feared he might accept a bad deal in order to secure a much-needed political and diplomatic victory. Trump said the North Koreans wanted the U.S. to lift all sanctions without making enough nuclear concessions. But North Korean Foreign Minister Ri Yong-ho disputed the claim, saying during a rare news conference that his government asked only for partial sanctions relief in exchange for shuttering several nuclear facilities. I do think that no deal is better than bad deal. What the hell? No deal is better than bad deal. Said Sue Mi Terry, a former Korea analyst at the CIA and senior fellow at the Center for Strategic International Studies, CSIS. This is just getting blah, blah, blah. We're almost done with this article. Bear with me. Senator Marco Rubio, a sometimes critic of Trump's foreign policy who sits on the Senate Foreign Relations panel, tweeted, "Thankfully, at POTUS, didn't fall for a deal involving meaningless North Korean measures in exchange for a meaningful U.S. concession. Wait, in exchange for meaningful U.S. concessions." So basically, he's saying, "Oh, I'm so happy that nothing happened because something supposedly bad could have happened." This is again, we'll get into this. By the way, I just want to mention they bring up Rubio as a sometime critic. The only time I've ever seen Rubio criticize Trump was when he wanted to rightfully pull out of Syria, and then all the Republicans started losing their minds, and so, including some of the Democrats too. Because they're bought out by defense contractors, and then that's it. That's the only time ever was when he wanted to get out of a war. So that characterization right there isn't a genuine description. Even frequent Trump critic Joe Scarborough praised him on that note, but any credit Trump received was overshadowed by the president's acceptance of Kim's claims that he was not involved in the death of American college student Otto Warmberger. I think it's Warmberger. A 22-year-old in prison in North Korea. Warmberger was sent back to his family in a comatose state and died after his return. He knew the case very well, but he knew it later, Trump said of Kim. And, you've got a lot of people, big country, lots of people. And in those prisons and those camps, you have a lot of people. And some really bad things happened to Otto. Some really bad things. Can't tell us what they did, just some really bad things. Some really bad things. And I guess, my thing is, when we do these streams, right, it's a lot different from being a government official, not even just the president, but let's say you're a senator or a congressman. You have a staff who pre-plan what you're going to say and oftentimes fill you in on a given scenario. So I would credit that being a failure of his staff, that they can't tell him what exactly happened while Otto was in that prison, but whatever. Another minor thing in the grand scheme. Not that killing, but just being specific. We're going to let him get away with that. Observers across the political spectrum on Thursday criticized Trump's remarks, accusing him of coddling a dictator. Here we go with that warmonger stuff again. You're coddling a dictator. We don't want to, we would be less upset if you said, "Oh, he's horrible. That's why we need to go to war." No, the fact that you coddle or you talk to him is so demonic. So let me read this nonsense. I mean, he gave cover for a leader who knew very well what was going on with all the warm buyer. Former Senator Rick Santorum, a Republican who's now a CNN commentator, said on Thursday, "I don't understand why the president does this. I'm disappointed, to say the least, that he did it." Yeah, he's just bitter because he lost the presidency in a year that Republicans thought they could win in 2012. And didn't even make it out of the primary, and he's mad Trump did. Crybaby. Beyond that controversy, most observers saw few positives in the summit's fruitless outcome. There's no denying that this summit was a total failure in the sense that the expectation prior to this summit was that there should be tangible progress, said Victor Cha, who led the Asia division on former President George W. Bush's National Security Council. We didn't just get a little bit of progress. We got zero progress. Foreign policy experts and congressional Democrats faulted Trump's unconventional approach of trying to reach an agreement through direct talks with Kim, saying it resulted in a lack of preparation at the staff level that could have paved the way for some kind of agreement that advanced nuclearization efforts. Typically, most of the heavy lifting before major summits between U.S. presidents and foreign leaders is done by staff weeks or months in advance, so the result is all but preordained. Yeah, that's what I was saying, that his staff is at fault here. People keep talking about him, but you have to ask yourself if the people who are below you are incompetent and can't set this up, like all the ones before them, there's a bigger issue than just the person at the top. Staff level work also took place before the Hanoi summit, but the scope was limited in part due to Trump's desire for one-on-one negotiations with Kim. Critics said Thursday's outcome also revealed the limits of Trump's personal approach to diplomacy, borrowed from his years of using personal charm and gut instinct during his years in the New York real estate business. What we saw in Hanoi was another hour with nuclear. What we saw in Hanoi was amateur hour with nuclear weapons at stake and the limit of reality TV diplomacy. See, that's stupid. You're going to go after him for his previous career. What was your career besides being corrupt? In relation to this Senator Menendez, the foreign committee ranking chair. I should do a video stream on him and all of the crap he's been caught in. That literally is the one senator where every time I hear something about him, like, shouldn't he be in jail? So the future of Trump's North Korea efforts are now unclear. The president has spoken openly about how his willingness to walk away is a negotiating tactic, even writing that it in his 1987 book, The Art of the Deal, and he left the door open to further negotiations with Kim. This wasn't a walk away, like you get up and walk out, Trump said at his news conference. No, this was very friendly. We shook hands. There's a warmth that we have, and I hope that stays. I think it will. But we are, we're positioned to do something very special. Trump called South Korean President Moon Jae-in a major booster of North Korean diplomacy following the summit and asked him actively, in quotations, help mediate. I think someone actually messed up on here. It says following the summit and asked him actively. It should say to help mediate future talks. So the Hill and their lovely grammatical skills, it's terrific. With Pyongyang, according to the South Korean news agency Yonhap. It's YONHAP. White House Press Secretary Sarah Huckabee Sanders, everybody's favorite liar in that room, whatever that room is called, the Brady Room, confirmed the call and said the administration continue the conversations with Kim and coordinate closely with allies. But a North Korean official reportedly said later that Chairman Kim got the feeling that he didn't understand the way Americans calculate and that Kim may have lost his will for more negotiations. And that's horrible. For as awful as one might, and this was a summit that went completely the reverse of what he wanted. the idea that it was so bad that Kim goes, all right, screw this, I'm not even gonna bother talking to you ever again, is oh my god. There was another article that I found in reference to the meeting that specified one of the points of contention was that, so I've done a video about this. We slapped sanctions on top North Korean officials back in December, and how Kim wanted those removed or something. It was some kind of sanctions that he was opposed to keeping, and Trump basically said, "Hey, we're not getting rid of that." And then the talks blew up, or at least that contributed to them blowing up. But I just find it ironic. You have all of these Democrats and the media, and even some Republicans who still are going on TV and talking about what the U.S.'s real intent is, which is to have regime change in North Korea, talking about the Libya model. Kill the leader and then replace them with with your own stooge. Stupid enough to say that on TV, but he's not stupid enough to where you think, oh, that was just some really big slip up. He purposefully undermines the beliefs and the positions of the president of the United States and gets away with it because he's at the top. I mean, this is insane, but I'm hard pressed to believe he's not doing something in the background to help negotiate never getting a negotiation. So, any excuse for war. And that's something that this entire group of people has been pushing for. So all their little rhetoric about, you saw Menendez say, oh, this is reality TV diplomacy. It's like, dude, you didn't even want diplomacy. You were one of a good supporter of going and having some conflict with North Korea. So we can't even take you seriously. Go away. Kick rocks. It's a shame you haven't lost your Senate seat. And again, it's a shame you're not sitting in a seat in prison somewhere for your corruption. So that's it's all to be expected and understood. And I remember one of his supporters, and I guess what gets me right is that when people try to say you are too like how I've been defensive for him with the media and stuff, but I said there is no consistent perspective as it relates to his tenure. It's all just been spur of the moment. We do this because we can kind of stuff when it relates to issues with these other countries, because you bomb the same 7 that Obama did, and then you go, okay, well, here's North Korea. Like, well, even if this were to happen, you still have military engagements that are aggressive in multiple other countries. So why would I believe you were serious about wanting to not piss off this particular one or start a conflict with this one? No, I always ask those supporters, and it's the same thing with the agreements. He rips up the INF treaty, ripped up the Paris agreements, pulled out of the Iran deal. Just what the hell is this? Like, this person who sees all these different peace treaties, whether they were done by a Democrat, Republican, whoever the hell, rips those up, and then I'm supposed to believe they're a serious advocate for not getting into a war with North Korea. I think Trump doesn't want to get into a war with them, but I think that the idea that he's some dove on conflict is nowhere near the truth, because again, we're still in these 7 other countries bombing them, and if I have to go down the list again, I will. So when you see those be completely not discussed, talked about at all, or if they are, they're spoken of in some manner that is, he's attempting to depict his strength. That there's no consistent perspective as it relates to just dealing with these other places. Ripped up all the agreements, kept all the bombings going. I don't even know anymore. It's been 2 years of things that just don't make sense. Because for all the credit I would like to give him on this, what the hell explains the other ones? So let me see if I can find the article with the sanctions. Oh, here it is. Okay, the Associated Press, North Korea's, or as Mark Levin would call them, the Associated Press. North Korea's foreign minister disputes President Trump's account for why the summit between Trump and North Korean leader Kim Jong-un collapsed. He says the North, I don't know why they can't just say NK, but whatever. He says the North demanded only partial sanctions in exchange for shutting its main nuclear complex. We can't even get an accurate description of what happened. Let me see if I can pull this up further. And that the discussions collapsed after the U.S. demanded further disarmament steps. Yeah, I don't think people remember what a negotiation is, where you get some of what you want, the other person gets some of what they want. I guess that doesn't happen anymore. We just kind of demand everything. In Ri Young Ho's comments during an abruptly scheduled news conference in Hanoi on Friday contradict the explanation by Trump, who hours earlier told reporters that the North had demanded a full removal of sanctions in exchange for shuttering the Yongbon nuclear facility. Ri says the North was also ready to offer in writing a permanent halt of the country's nuclear and intercontinental ballistic missile test, and that Washington wasted an opportunity that may not come again. He says the North's position wouldn't change even if the United States offers to resume another round of dialogue. So again, it's just more wasted time, more useless interactions. Again, if they want this one thing, just give it to them. Get rid of the stupid sanctions. They don't do anything for. I mean, the only thing and with the sanctions, right? The only thing I give him credit for is that he at least, I guess, was smart enough to put it on the top officials. But apparently, that's only one round of them, or there's more than that. So, if they want think about this, you're gonna sanction the people and take that over them just disarming themselves, not being able to bomb us at any given time they want. It's brilliant. So I'm really glad I didn't get my hopes up for this, because I knew that it's problematic. You have an individual who does not have a consistent tone on what exactly they want to do, or at least a tenure where it's an individual who's doing everything that is considered normal. So again, bombing the same 7 countries of I might as well just say them: Iraq, Afghanistan, Syria, Libya, Somalia, Pakistan, and where else? I think I said Yemen. Did I say Yemen? I don't know. But again, I can name a majority of them off the top of my head. So when you are involved in that many offensive engagements that have nothing to do with fighting terrorists, at least Al Qaeda or some group that actually attacked us, these unconstitutional conflicts that started under the tenure of someone you heavily criticized, I'm not really that convinced that you're some advocate for peace. That's why when they were talking about giving Trump the Nobel Peace Prize, I said, look, you can give it to him, but it's going to mean as much as when they gave it to Obama. It's actually going to be slightly worse, because Obama was able to get in there and go, oh, yes, my rhetoric should convince you I'm for peace, and then proceed to bomb 7 countries. In the instance of Trump, you're going to have someone who gets this knowingly while bombing more than half a dozen different places. So that was me basically saying it's going to mean about as much, if not less, if you give it to him. But again, because they gave it to to people who I already think don't deserve it, I'm just generally indifferent at this point. It was just really weird to see that be something they offered first after Trump spent his whole first year in office going back and forth with Kim Jong-un, arguing back and forth. But also even now, where it's just, there's still been no peace. Yeah, they met, but did they sign an agreement? Have they had a peace treaty or what? Nothing. And what gets on my nerves about his supporters is I tell them, how can you get so happy by him wanting to not bomb North Korea, not wanting to have some, back and forth with them, when we're literally having a back and forth to all these other places? As well as the fact that with, people like this, I tried to mention, they always talk about him being a stooge for Putin. I said, well, damn, why did he rip up the INF treaty, which is supposed to make it to where neither one of us can have these weapons? Why did Putin start talking about bombing like his missiles being able to strike the U.S.? It doesn't make sense when you think about it critically, but they don't want you to. They want you to have, if you're not a fan of Trump, just blind hatred for anything he does. So, if he wants to have a peace meeting with North Korea, he's coddling dictators. It's like, look, I'm no fan of Kim Jong-un, but again, I'd rather a treaty than some military conflict, which is probably what's going to happen. How you doing, Paradox? So they're not too bright over there on those cable networks, but they're paid by Boeing and other agencies to push for as many conflicts as possible. It's not too surprising. I just don't know how many times they're going to have to meet before we actually get something that's worth the damn out of these interactions. It's like, oh, we met. Yay. Did anything happen? No, we just took a picture and smiled together. And he mentioned this during the State of the Union, so this was apparently some big major priority of his, but it did nothing. Went nowhere. And as I've tried to explain, we shouldn't be surprised that it didn't, or that it proceeded to go down the way it did. Yeah, well, that's my point, Paradox, that his opposition are attacking him from the right. They want him to start a conflict with this person because they have actually no issue with us being at war. That's why we're bombing 7 countries, and you don't see Fox talking about it, you don't see CNN talking about it, MSNBC talking about it. Nothing. They just don't care, and they want you to not talk about it because they don't want to put spotlight on the fact that your tax dollars are being wasted killing innocent people who did nothing to you. So that's another testimony to the stupidity of the media, or just how they think people are. But thanks to places like the internet, which are far from perfect, but at least don't have the same filter, you can get that information from someone else. It's just really pathetic that they're going to go out and say, again, the problem with the meeting is nothing happened. It's not that he met with him. He can meet with him a million times, but if nothing happens, then it's pointless. It's the fact that they are critiquing him for meeting with him. Like, that's their issue. It's like, well, you guys are the same idiots who are, patty caking him to go in Venezuela and mess with the leader over there, the democratically elected leader. So I don't need, like, the media's got the same problem. I don't even know what these people are anymore. They say whatever they can because they know no one's going to challenge them on. Like, think about how crazy this is. The same media that is criticizing him for meeting with the dictator, the same senators too, are the same ones who have their mouths tight-lipped as he's talking about getting involved in Venezuela, where they have a democratically elected leader for oil. And I know they're going to say, "Oh, well, Maduro's such a bad guy." Blah, blah, blah. It's like they do this every time. They did it in Iran. Oh, we have to stop them. It's just a coincidence they have so much oil that we want. Don't take it too personally. Don't think too seriously of it. Again, I don't know who they think they're fooling. Well, I actually do know they think people who don't act, and that's why I hate the fact that the U.S. can do all of this stuff overseas and it gets no coverage and people have no idea what's happening. Of course, they don't care. They have their hands in the pockets of weapon manufacturers and oil salesmen. Yeah, I mean, it's literally just a big scam where they're all patty caking. CNN gets money from these defense contractors to spread war propaganda. Defense contractors get their coins from the wars going on, and then your cash gets stolen and used for this completely useless conflict that only is effective in killing people who had nothing to do with it. I just wish that people would realize that Trump picks a different country every year to have a problem with. Like, since he's entered office, the first year was North Korea, the second year it was Iran, and then this year it's Venezuela. Watch next year it's going to be maybe who haven't we messed with yet? I was trying to think of somewhere else that he'll have a problem with. Don't mind being spineless bootlickers for that money. No, I want to know if you noticed that where, like, every year there's a different country he picks and has a problem with, because we had a whole back and forth with North Korea all of his whole first year, to the point where he did a speech for the UN talking about, we will have no choice but to totally destroy North Korea if they attack us. And then that results in this peace summit the following year as he's heightening stuff with Iran, and he pulls out of the Iran deal. And to this day, right, a year after we pull out, every other country is still in it. It's just us. The stupid U.S. is the only one that's not in there. Stupid rogue state U.S. the only one that can't, get along with its with other countries. So I can't wait to see what happens with this one. I hope we don't end up getting a was that an eighth war, an eighth country we're bombing? But it looks like we might be going down that route. And people really don't get what the The problem is with getting involved in these other places that you have to actually think critically about how insane some of this stuff is. Imagine if I was the leader of, I don't know, Germany, and I said, you know what? I refuse to recognize Trump as the president from now on. I will be recognizing, I don't know, Elizabeth Warren as the interim president or as the official one. That's literally what we're doing in Venezuela. We're saying screw who got elected. We don't. You guys make the wrong choice. We're gonna make the right choice for you. So people don't get it. People don't pay attention to this stuff, and I guess that's all right. Supposedly. Thank you for showing up, Paradox. I appreciate it. That should be it. It was a waste of time, and fortunately, his supporters, because they don't know anything about any of this stuff, are going to keep liking him, no matter what we say or what we do. So, thank you.